Now, for those of you who I guess maybe you're newer to the channel or something, and you're not familiar with my previous takes and videos about the whole situation, I've generally said this, is that, like, you know, kind of like what Candace Owens said, right? Genocide is wrong. Don't break, you know, international law when you're fighting terrorists. Israel does have a right to defend themselves by going after Hamas. But at the same time, they need to be a bit more careful to make sure that they're not breaking, you know, the Geneva Conventions, things like that. I've criticized things that they've done, like apparently using white phosphorus, as well as that siege that they did in Gaza. I will admit, right, that the news was so depressing that I have not followed it very closely since I think like a month or two after the war started. You know, in general, I do think that Israel should exist. I don't think their civilians deserve to be bombed or whatever. I understand that there are many disgruntled progressives out there who really hate the state of Israel. At the very least, they want Israel to be wiped off the face of the map, and they want the whole area to be Islamic. I completely recognize those people. I understand there's a completely distinct historical perspective that they're coming from. I am currently very, very slowly doing my own research on all of that so that I can have, to the best of my ability, a relatively unbiased perspective of everything before I comment on, should Israel exist? Was the state of Israel always destined to be some sort of like grossly immoral and genocidal state? Are they doing apartheid against the Palestinians? So far, I have not necessarily found the arguments that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians particularly convincing. As a matter of fact, I did have a pro-Palestinian homie, someone I know in real life actually, send me this video from like the GDF or whatever, listing out things that were at least purportedly indicating that Israel is committing a genocide. And, you know, without thinking at first, you know, they did seem relatively convincing. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You know, it sounds like you're sort of like leaping to a conclusion here. So I'm actually systematically going through that video, and I am doing my own debunks of some of their, you know, the conclusions to some of the things that they're saying, correcting little things that they got wrong. So maybe I'll do a whole debunking video on the GDF at some point. I do think that would be fun, and I think it would be helppful because I looked in the comments and everyone was just eating it up. So I think it'd be nice to put out like a different perspective out there. But in general, and you can easily go back to my video where I talk about this more at length, but if you go to war, you forfeit the right to your land. So if Israel wins the war in Gaza and they decide to take it over, they would have a right to do so because they've conquered the land. I've never heard a single case where a nation has like lost a war and they either were plundered or land was taken and they whined and complained about it. And those complaints were viewed as something serious. Russia is still complaining about land lost from the Soviet Union. Are we treating them? Are we treating that seriously? No, we're not. Is anyone whining and complaining about how much money, you know, the UN and other nations took up from Germany after beating them in World War II? No one is taking them seriously. I do completely understand that progressives would like to hold Palestinians in Gaza to a different standard than they hold everyone else, and they would like to hold Israel in a completely inverse way, to a different standard as they hold everyone else. But I don't care because that's not how I like to treat things, right? I think if you have to give special treatment to like an organization or something or a nation, then something is wrong and you're actually admitting that they're not as bad as you say or that they're not as good as you say. So that's where I stand on that. But all of that said, I'm not like one of those like wimps who like is afraid of war and thinks that war should never happen, but war sucks. War stinks. It leads to civilian deaths, which is one reason I don't like it. I think that if you're going to do a war, you should win it quickly, which unfortunately oftentimes means that you have more casualties in the front end, but it means, hey, guess what? No more casualties after that. I'd much rather have a very, very bloody and very, very quick and short war than a trickle of of casualties throughout the course of 15 to 20 years. That's my perspective on war in general as well. So there it is. All my thoughts, all my opinions in general about this. I wanted to lay it out there because I don't want to be asked to do a video about, oh, what's your take on, the Israel-Hamas war after everything that happened on October 7th, considering all the humanitarian crises and all of that stuff. Some of those things I will address in my GDF debunking video if I ever get around to making that. But yeah, in case you guys are wondering, you're curious about what my stance is on Israel and Hamas and all of that, that's where I stand. My position has not particularly changed very much. But if you have any challenges or any sources that you think I should be taking a look at, please join my Discord. The link is in the description below. And send me some messages, send me your sources, because I am compiling a list of places to go for all the research and all that stuff. If you do send me that, it'll be greatly appreciated.